Have you ever felt like you're trapped in a hopeless pit, where everything feels heavy and devoid of hope? What is stealing your peace and draining your strength? Maybe you're going through days when the exhaustion feels greater than you can bear. Responsibilities, problems, disappointments, all of it piles up, and suddenly, you find yourself feeling discouraged, directionless, as if your soul is crumbling from within. And do you know what's even more challenging? Often, no one notices. On the outside, you may look fine, but inside, only God knows the battles you've been facing. I understand. Maybe you've been trying to fix everything on your own, searching for strength in places that seem to have no effect. But there is a God who knows every tear you've shed, every doubt you've had, and every weight you've been carrying. He knows that discouragement, when it takes over the heart, can steal your joy, your focus, and even your will to fight. But the good news is that you don't have to face this alone. God brought me here today to share something very special with you. Psalm 40. This psalm is a living promise that no matter how bad the pit you're in is, God is ready to pull you out, set your feet on solid rock, and give you a new song, a new hope, a fresh start. The words of Psalm 40 are not just beautiful text. They are a powerful reminder that God works in His perfect timing. He sees your pain, understands your struggles, and is ready to transform your story. But you need to take the first step. Trust and surrender to Him everything that weighs on your heart. Maybe you're facing a problem that seems unsolvable, whether it's in your family, at work, or even something within yourself, like a lack of peace or emotional wounds. God is an expert in restoring what is broken. He not only heals, but also renews, transforms, and brings new purpose to your life. I invite you to pray with me through Psalm 40 and meditate on each verse. Verse 1. I waited patiently for the Lord, and He inclined to me and heard my cry. David begins this psalm highlighting something we all face at some point in life. Waiting. But not just any waiting. He speaks of a patient waiting, full of trust in the Lord. Imagine being in a situation where it seems there's no way out. David reminds us that God doesn't just hear us. He leans toward us, like a loving father bending down to listen to his child. When we face challenges, we often want quick answers. But this verse teaches us that God's timing is perfect, and that waiting strengthens us and draws us closer to Him. Think about how this applies to your everyday life. Are you facing something that seems impossible to resolve? Know that while you wait, God is working on your behalf. Verse 2. He brought me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry clay, and He set my feet upon a rock and made my steps firm. David vividly describes the feeling of being trapped, as if in a dark, slippery pit with no way out. Perhaps you felt this way, like you're sinking into financial problems, difficult relationships, or even your health. But look at what God does. He doesn't just rescue us from the pit. He places our feet on solid rock, a place of safety. This shows that God doesn't just deliver us from danger, but also gives us stability to move forward. How many times have we felt lost even after coming out of a struggle? This verse assures us that God not only rescues, but also guides our steps. Verse 3. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and will trust in the Lord. When God transforms our life, He also transforms our expression. The new song symbolizes the renewal of our faith and gratitude. This change in our life can be witnessed by others, inspiring them to trust in God. Does your life reflect God's work in a way that inspires others? What praise have you offered to Him for the victories you've already achieved? Verse 4. Blessed is the man who makes the Lord his trust and does not turn to the proud, to those who go astray after false gods. True happiness is not found by following the ways of the world, but by fully trusting in God. Those who seek direction from the arrogant or from lies will end up frustrated, while those who trust in the Lord find security. Have you placed your trust in God or in human solutions? Reflect on the choices you've made and ask the Lord to direct your steps. Verse 5. Many, O Lord my God, are the wonders you have done, and your thoughts toward us. None can compare with you. Here, David shifts the focus to gratitude. He recognizes that God didn't just rescue him, but also has wonderful plans for his life. Often, in the midst of struggles, we forget to give thanks. This verse reminds us that we should always praise God for the blessings he has already given and for those still to come. Next is the revised and expanded outline, now including detailed reflections on each verse of Psalm 40. The goal is to deepen the meaning of each part and bring practical and spiritual applications for daily life. Verse 6. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire. My ears you have opened. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not require. Then I said, Here I am. I have come. It is written about me in the scroll. I desire to do your will, my God. Your law is within my heart. God doesn't seek empty rituals, but obedient and willing hearts. When we surrender to his will, we experience true joy. Have you been doing things for God just out of obligation, or is your heart aligned with him? Verse 7. Then I said, Here I am. I have come. It is written about me in the scroll. This verse reminds us that God has a specific plan for each of us. David acknowledges that his life is aligned with God's purposes and that he was called to fulfill something greater than himself. Have you stopped to reflect that your life also fits into God's plan? Declare today, Here I am, Lord, willing to fulfill your will. Verse 8. I delight to do your will, my God. Your law is within my heart. Doing God's will is not a burden, but a source of joy for those who have his law written in their hearts. When we surrender to him, obedience becomes a privilege, not an obligation. Have you found joy in following God's ways? Ask him to write his word on your heart so that it can be a light in all your decisions. Verses 9 to 10. I proclaim your righteousness in the great assembly. I do not seal my lips, O Lord, as you know. I do not hide your righteousness in my heart. I speak of your faithfulness and your salvation. I do not conceal your love and your faithfulness from the great assembly. David doesn't keep quiet about God's works. His public testimony reinforces the importance of proclaiming God's goodness. Have you shared what God has done in your life? Don't stay silent. Your story can inspire others. Verse 11. Do not withhold your mercy from me, Lord. May your love and your faithfulness always protect me. Even after acknowledging God's goodness, David continues to ask for his mercy. This shows dependence and humility. As David did, ask God daily for his mercy and love. In which area of your life do you need to feel God's protection and truth right now? Verses 12 to 13. For troubles without number surround me. My sins have overtaken me, and I cannot see. They are more than the hairs of my head, and my heart fails within me. Be pleased to save me, Lord. Come quickly, Lord, to help me. Here, we see David's vulnerability. He acknowledges his sinful condition and total dependence on God. Don't be afraid to admit your weaknesses before God. He is ready to deliver and help. Verses 14 to 15. May all who want to take my life be put to shame and confusion. May all who desire my ruin be turned back in disgrace. May they be appalled at their own shame who say to me, Aha! Aha! David entrusts his enemies to God, showing that divine justice is more powerful than human revenge. Trust your struggles to God. He is just and cares for every situation. Verse 16. May all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation always say, The Lord be exalted. There is a joy that only those who seek God can experience. This joy overflows into praise. Have you proclaimed the greatness of the Lord in the midst of struggles? Praise, even in difficult times. Verse 17. I am poor and needy, but the Lord takes thought for me. You are my help and my deliverer. Do not delay, O my God. Despite his weakness, David feels secure in God's care. This reassures us that, even in our smallness, we are loved by him. Never underestimate God's care in your life. He is your present help. Psalm 40 teaches us that God works in the waiting, even when everything seems lost. But how can we apply this to our lives? Think of someone going through an emotional battle. Maybe they've lost their job and see no way out. They pray but feel like things aren't changing. This psalm encourages them to keep waiting on God, for in His perfect timing, He will lean in and answer. Now, reflect on your own life. Have you trusted in God amidst difficulties? How do you react when the answer seems delayed? David teaches us to be patient, but also to maintain a grateful and confident heart. Another practical example is the struggle with addictions or destructive habits. Someone might feel like they're sinking into a miry pit, unable to free themselves. This psalm shows us that God is the one who rescues and sets us on firm ground, giving us the strength to overcome anything.